A dying dragon trusted a human with its child, the galaxy. Watched in awe, the cargo ship Starling moved slowly through the dark space of the Vela sector. It was an old ship, small and tired, carrying medical supplies to a distant colony. Captain Park Taiho sat alone in the cockpit, drinking cold coffee and watching the stars pass by. He was 42 years old. His hair was starting to turn gray at the edges. He had been flying cargo ships for 20 years, and he had never seen anything special. No battles, no discoveries, just boxes and deliveries and the endless lack of space. That was about to change. The distress signal came at 0300 hours. It was weak, almost too weak to hear. The computer almost missed it. But Taiho heard the small beep, and he sat up straight in his chair. "What is that?" he said to himself. He traced the signal to a location 2 hours away. It was far from any known shipping lanes, far from any colonies or stations. There was no reason for anyone to be out there. Taiho knew the rules. Company policy said to report distress signals and continue on schedule. Someone else would handle it. Someone with better equipment. Someone whose job it was to save people. But the signal was so weak. By the time anyone else arrived, whoever sent it would be dead. He made his decision in 3 seconds. "Sumi, Hana, wake up." His crew was small. Just 2 people. Kang Sumi was his engineer, a woman of 30 with short black hair and clever hands that could fix anything. Yoon Hana was his medic, quiet and kind, with gentle eyes that had seen too much suffering. They came to the cockpit rubbing sleep from their eyes. "What is it?" Sumi asked. "Distress signal. We are going to check it out." Hana looked at the navigation screen. "That is far off our route. The company will not be happy." "The company can wait," Taiho said. "Someone needs help." 2 hours later, they found the wreck dot. It was not like any ship Taiho had ever seen. The hull was white like bone, curved and organic, as if it had been grown instead of built. Strange patterns covered its surface, glowing faintly with dying light. Parts of it were torn open. Something had attacked it with terrible force. "By the stars," Sumi whispered. "That is a Valoran vessel." Taiho felt his heart stop. The Valoran. Everyone knew the stories. They were the oldest race in the galaxy, ancient beyond counting. They looked like dragons from Earth's old myths, massive creatures with wings and scales and fire in their blood. They had built the first jump gates. They had mapped the first stars. Some people worshipped them as gods. No human had ever been close to one. The Valoran did not speak to younger races. They moved through the galaxy like ghosts, distant and untouchable. "We should leave," Hana said softly. "This is not our place." "There is a life sign," Taiho said, looking at his scanner. 2 life signs. One very weak. One small. He stood up. "I am going in." The inside of the ship was dark and hot. Taiho wore a breathing mask and carried a small light. The walls were smooth and warm, like the inside of a living thing. He followed his scanner through twisted corridors until he found her. She was enormous. Even lying broken on the floor, she was 3 times his size. Her scales had once been silver, beautiful, and bright. Now they were dull and gray, like ashes. Her wings were crushed beneath fallen metal. Dark blood pooled beneath her body, but her eyes were open, and they were looking at him. Taiho froze. Those eyes were gold, deep and ancient, holding thousands of years of memory. They studied him with an intelligence that made him feel very small, very young, very fragile. "Human," she said. Her voice was like thunder heard from far away. It filled the room without being loud. "You came." Taiho swallowed his fear and walked closer. "I heard your signal. I came to help. There is no help for me." She moved slightly, and he saw what she was holding against her chest. A small creature. A baby. It had golden scales and violet eyes, and it was trembling with fear. "The swarm found us," the dragon said. "A hunting pack. They wanted my daughter. They will come back to make sure we are dead. We can take you to a medical station. We can—" No. The word was gentle, but final. "I am already gone. My fire is dying." "But she—" The dragon looked down at the small creature in her arms. "She's the last of my bloodline. The last daughter of House Aerith. She must live." She lifted the baby toward Taiho. "Take her." Taiho stared. "I cannot. I am just a cargo hauler. I do not know how to raise a— I do not even know what she needs to eat." "You came," the dragon said again. "My signal was weak. Others heard it. I felt their ships pass by. They did not stop. But you did." Her eyes softened. "That is enough. That is everything." Taiho looked at the small creature. She was looking back at him with those strange violet eyes. She was afraid. She was alone. She was about to lose the only family she had ever known. He thought of his own mother, who had died when he was young. He remembered how it felt to be alone in the universe. He reached out and took the baby into his arms. She was warm. Very warm. Her small claws gripped his jacket, and she pressed her head against his chest. He could feel her tiny heart beating fast. "Her name is Iziel," the dragon said. "It means morning dew. She is precious. She is new." "Iziel," Taiho repeated softly. The dragon smiled. It was a strange thing to see on such a massive face. Strange and sad and beautiful. "Protect her, human. Love her. Teach her what your kind knows. The kindness that makes you stop for strangers. The courage that makes you weak creatures walk into the dark." Her voice was fading now. "Show her that strength is not only fire and scale. Show her that it can be soft. That it can be warm." "I will," Taiho said. "I promise. Then I die in peace." The light went out of her eyes. The great body relaxed. And Iziel, as if she knew, let out a small cry that broke Taiho's heart. He held her tighter. "It is okay," he whispered, not knowing if she could understand. "I am here. I am not going anywhere." Sumi and Hannah found him like that, sitting on the floor of a dead ship, holding a dragon's child against his chest while she cried for her mother. "Taiho," Hannah said. "What do we do?" He looked up at his crew. He looked down at the small creature in his arms. He thought about the life he had lived until this moment, quiet and small and forgettable. That life was over now. "We take her home," he said. "We raise her. We keep her safe. The galaxy will not allow it," Sumi said. "They will come for her. Everyone will come for her. Then they will have to go through us." He stood up, Iziel still pressed against his heart. "Let them come." A dying dragon trusted a human with its child. The galaxy watched in awe. News spread across the galaxy like fire, within hours. Every planet, every station, every ship with a communication array knew what had happened. A human cargo captain had found a dying Valoran. She had given him her child. The last daughter of House Aerith was now in human hands. The reactions came fast and loud. The Kravani hegemony sent the first message. They were tall beings with blue skin and 3 eyes, and they had built temples to honor the Valoran for thousands of years. Their ambassador appeared on every news channel, speaking in a voice full of anger and disbelief. "This is an insult to the natural order," he declared. "The Valoran are sacred beings. They cannot be raised by humans. Humans are barely out of their caves. They have no understanding of the old ways, the old songs, the old fire. The child must be given to us. We will raise her with the proper respect." The Thrall Collective said something different. They were a hive species, Millions of minds connected into one great intelligence. They spoke through their chosen voice, a figure that changed its shape as it talked. The Valoran biology is extremely complex, the thrall said. Humans cannot possibly provide what the child needs. She will require specific temperatures, specific minerals, specific atmospheric conditions. Give her to our scientists. We will study her needs and keep her alive. Other species joined the argument. The Mordic claimed an ancient debt. The Solari said they had a treaty signed 10,000 years ago. Everyone had a reason. Everyone had a demand. The Galactic Council issued an official summons. They wanted Taiho to bring the child to their great station for review and appropriate placement. Taiho recorded his answer from the cockpit of the Starling. Iziel sat on his shoulder, her small claws holding his jacket. Her violet eyes curious about the camera. No. The single word echoed across 1 billion screens. Her mother gave her to me, Taiho continued. Not to your councils. Not to your temples. Not to your scientists. To me. I made a promise to a dying mother, and I will keep it. Anyone who wants to take this child from me will have to go through me first. The Corvani ambassador laughed when he saw the message. Go through him? He is one human on a tiny ship. What can he possibly do? But humanity was listening too. Earth government called an emergency session. For 200 years, humans have been the new species in the galaxy. Young, weak, ignored. The other races looked at them like children playing in a world they did not understand. But humans remembered their own history. They remembered the stories of parents protecting children. They remembered the tales of the weak standing against the strong. They remembered that courage was not about size or power. It was about refusing to give up. The United Fleet deployed 3 warships to escort the Starling home. They were not the biggest ships in the galaxy. They were not the most powerful. But their message was clear. Touch the child, Earth's Prime Minister said in her broadcast, and you touch all of humanity. We stand with Captain Park. The other species watched in confusion. Why would humans risk everything for one alien child? Why would they challenge the entire galaxy for a creature that was not even their own kind? They did not understand, but Taiho did not have time to think about politics. He had bigger problems. Iziel was dying. Valoran hatchlings needed temperatures that would burn human skin. They needed to breathe air mixed with sulfur. They needed to eat minerals found only in the hearts of asteroids. And they grew fast, changing and developing in ways that no human doctor could predict. By the second week, Iziel had stopped eating. She lay in a corner of the ship, her scales losing their shine, her breathing shallow and weak. I do not know what to do, Hana said, her voice breaking. I am a human medic. I know nothing about dragon biology. I am killing her with my ignorance. Taiho sat beside Iziel, stroking her head gently. She was warm, but not as warm as before. Her fire was fading. We need help, Sumi said. Real help. From someone who understands her kind. The Thrall would help, Hana said. They have the knowledge. The Thrall want to take her away. I will not let that happen. Then she will die, Taiho. Is your pride worth more than her life? Taiho closed his eyes. He thought about the promise he had made. He thought about Irith's last words. Protect her. Love her. How could he protect her if she was dead? Call the Thrall, he said finally. But make it clear. They send information only. They do not send people. They do not come near this ship. The Thrall agreed. Perhaps they truly wanted to help. Perhaps they hoped that by showing kindness, they would convince Taiho to give Iziel to them later. It did not matter. Within hours, detailed medical data arrived. Diagrams, chemistry formulas, temperature requirements, feeding schedules. Hana studied the information until her eyes burned. Sumi rebuilt the ship's life support systems 3 times in 2 days. Taiho sold everything he owned to buy the rare minerals Isiel needed to eat. It was not enough. They needed a real home. A place built for Isiel's needs. And they could not afford it. Then the messages started coming. Human mining colony on the edge of the system sent 5 tons of asteroid minerals. For the little dragon, the message said. From the children of Epsilon Station. They drew pictures for her. A retired engineer offered his life savings. I never had kids of my own. Let me help someone else's. A young scientist sent her research on thermal management systems. I designed this for volcanic research. Maybe it will help. Thousands of messages. Then millions. Humans from every corner of the galaxy, sending money and supplies and knowledge. Most of them would never meet Isiel. Most of them would never know if their help made a difference. But they sent it anyway, because that was what humans did. Taiho bought an abandoned space station orbiting Earth's moon. It was old and broken, built for mining operations a century ago. With the money and supplies from across human space, Sumi rebuilt it into something new. Thermal chambers that could reach violent temperatures. Atmospheric processors that mixed the perfect air. Storage rooms filled with minerals and metals. And one large room with a window facing the stars, where Isiel could sleep and dream of flying. Isiel grew stronger. Her scales brightened. Her eyes sparkled. She started making sounds, small chirps and rumbles that might have been words in her mother's language. Every night, Taiho sat with her in the room with the window. He told her stories. Stories about Earth. Stories about humans. Stories about his own mother, who had died when he was young. I know you miss her, he said one night, as Isiel pressed against his side. I miss mine too. Every day. But missing someone does not mean you are alone. It means you were loved. And being loved is the best thing anyone can have. Isiel made a soft sound. She might not have understood the words, but she understood the warmth in his voice. She understood that she was safe. She curled closer, and Taiho held her while she slept. Outside, the galaxy still argued about her fate. The Kovani demanded. The Thrall calculated. The council debated. But inside this small station, a human man sang lullabies to a dragon child. And slowly, day by day, they became a family. A dying dragon trusted a human with its child. The galaxy watched in awe. 5 years passed. The station had grown. What was once a small mining platform was now a small community. Sumi had married a man named Do-Yun, and they had 2 daughters. Hana had adopted 3 orphans from a refugee colony. Engineers and teachers and cooks had come to help, drawn by the story of the dragon child and the man who raised her. And Isiel had changed. She was no longer the tiny creature who fit in Taiho's arms. She stood 3 meters tall now, her wings folded elegantly against her back, her scales shining like polished gold. When she moved with ancient grace, each step carrying the weight of her ancestors. But she was not like her ancestors at all. The old stories described Valoran as cold and distant. They ruled through fear and silence. They did not speak to lesser species. They certainly did not love them. Isiel was different. She woke every morning and cooked breakfast for the station crew. She had learned to use the kitchen tools with her claws, though she sometimes melted the pans by accident when she got excited. She made a special egg dish that everyone loved, though Taiho suspected she added a tiny bit of her fire to the cooking. She played games with Sumi's daughters. She told them stories about the stars, pointing at the window with her wing, describing worlds they would never see. The girls were not afraid of her. They climbed on her back and braided ribbons into her scales. And Isiel pretended to complain while secretly loving every moment. She called Hana and argued with Taiho about everything. You need to sleep more, Taiho would say. I am a Valoran. We do not need as much sleep as humans. You are also 16 years old. Teenagers need sleep. I am 16 in human years. In Valoran years, I am barely bed. Now, Asiel would grumble and huff small flames, but she always went. And Taiho would smile, because her complaining sounded exactly like every human teenager he had ever known. The galaxy watched. They had expected the dragon child to die without proper Valoran guidance. They had expected her to grow wild and dangerous, a monster shaped by human weakness. They had not expected this. A Kovani ambassador visited the station under diplomatic protection. His name was Vareth, and he had spent his whole life studying the Valoran. He knew their history, their customs, their songs. He knew everything written in the old books. He did not know Isiel. He found her in the schoolroom, helping a young human boy with his mathematics homework. The dragon's massive form was curled carefully around the boy's small desk. Her fire-bright eyes were soft with patience. Her tail was wrapped around her own body to make sure she did not accidentally knock anything over. "No, look," Isiel was saying. "If you add these numbers first, then you can solve the rest easily. See? Mathematics is just patterns. Once you see the pattern, it becomes simple." The boy looked up at her with wide eyes. "You are really good at this. I've had good teachers." Isiel glanced at the doorway and saw Vareth standing there. "Ambassador, welcome to our station." Vareth could not speak for a moment. In all his studies, in all the ancient records, he had never seen a Valoran bow their head in greeting. He had never seen one lower themselves to teach a child. He had never seen one smile. "This is unprecedented," he finally said. Is Eul tilted her head. "What is?" "You. All of this. Valoran do not. You do not behave this way. You do not form bonds with lesser species. You do not show affection. You do not—" "Lesser species?" Isiel's voice was calm, but her eyes flickered with something hot. "What makes them lesser, Ambassador?" "I did not mean. They live shorter lives. They have smaller bodies. They cannot breathe fire or fly between stars." Isiel rose to her full height, and the ambassador stepped back. "But they came when my mother called. They gave everything they had to save me. They loved me when no one else would." She looked down at the boy, who was watching with wide eyes. "There is nothing lesser about that." Vareth left the station that night. His report to the Corvani High Council was simple. "She is not what we expected. She is something new." But not everyone saw Isiel as something wonderful. The Thrall Collective had a faction that believed in purity. They called themselves the True Mind. They believed that the Valoran bloodline must remain untouched by outside influence. A dragon raised by humans was not just wrong. It was an abomination. They sent assassins. 3 Thrall infiltrators cut through the station's hall at night. They were shapeshifters, able to become invisible in the dark. They moved through the corridors like shadows, searching for the dragon child's sleeping chamber. They found her waiting for them. Isiel stood in the middle of the corridor, her eyes glowing like twin suns in the darkness. Her scales reflected their light, turning her into a creature of gold and fire. "I heard you coming," she said. "I felt your hate." The assassins attacked. They had weapons designed to kill Valoran, rare poisons and burning acids and blades that could cut through scales. They were trained killers who had never failed a mission. They failed this one. Isiel did not kill them. She could have. Her fire could have turned them to ash in seconds. Her claws could have torn them apart. But she remembered what Taiho had taught her. She remembered the stories about strength and kindness. She remembered that mercy was not weakness. She burned their weapons to liquid metal. She wrapped them in her tail and carried them to the airlock, where she left them unconscious but alive. When they woke, she was watching them through the glass. "Tell your masters," she said, her voice carrying the echo of ancient thunder, "that House Irith stands, and House Irith protects its own." She opened the outer door, and their emergency suits activated, carrying them away into space where a Thrall ship was waiting. The assassins delivered her message. They also delivered something else: fear. For the first time, the Thrall Collective understood that the Dragon Child was not helpless. She was powerful, and she had chosen to let them live. That was more terrifying than if she had killed them. Taiho found Isiel afterward, sitting alone in the observation room. Her wings were wrapped around herself, and she was shaking. "Isiel, I hurt them," she said without looking at him. "I burned them. I felt their fear. And for a moment, I wanted to kill them. I wanted to end them forever." Taiho sat beside her. He put his hand on her shoulder, feeling the warmth of her scales. "But you did not." "No, I remembered what you taught me. I remembered that strength is not just about winning. It is about choosing what kind of person you want to be." She finally looked at him. Her eyes were wet. Could dragons cry? Apparently, they could. Did I do the right thing? Letting them go? Taiho smiled. "Your mother trusted me because I came when no one else would. You let them live when no one would have blamed you for killing them." He squeezed her shoulder. "Yeah, you did the right thing." Isiel leaned against him. She was too big for him to hold now, but he put his arms around as much of her as he could. "I was scared," she admitted. "That is okay. Being scared means you understand how serious things are. Courage is not about feeling no fear. It is about doing the right thing even when you are afraid." They sat together in the dark, watching the stars. "Dad?" Isiel said quietly that it was the first time she had called him that. Taiho's heart nearly burst. "Yes?" "Thank you." "For everything?" He held her tighter. "Always." A dying dragon trusted a human with its child. The galaxy watched in awe. Assassination attempt changed everything. The Galactic Council could not ignore what had happened. 3 Thrall agents had tried to kill the last Valeran child. They had failed, but the attempt itself was a crime that demanded response. The council called for a formal tribunal, but the tribunal was not about punishing the Thrall. It was about Isiel. The argument was simple. A Valeran raised by humans was dangerous. She did not behave like dragons should. She formed attachments. She showed mercy when she should have shown fire. She was unpredictable. The galaxy could not allow such an unknown element to exist without oversight. The tribunal was held at the Grand Station, a massive structure floating at the center of council space. Representatives from 100 worlds filled the great chamber. Holographic projections carried the proceedings to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Taiho was called to testify. He walked into the chamber wearing his old cargo captain uniform. It was worn and faded, but he had kept it clean. Around him, the representatives sat in their seats, looking down at him like judges examining a criminal. The Corvani High Speaker began the questioning. He was ancient, his blue skin pale with age, his 3 eyes cold and sharp. "Captain Park," the speaker said, "you have raised this creature for 18 years. Do you claim to understand her?" "No," Taiho said. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. This was not what they expected. "No," Taiho continued. "I do not understand her. I do not understand how she dreams in colors that humans cannot see. I do not understand how she hears music in solar winds. I do not understand why she cries when she looks at certain stars." He paused. "But I do not need to understand her to love her." The chamber went quiet. "You ask if she is dangerous," Taiho said. "Yes, she is. She could burn this station to atoms if she wanted. She could crack moons with her fire. She has power that you and I will never understand." He looked directly at the tribunal. But she also held my hand when my mother died. She taught Sumi's daughter to read. She sends birthday messages to every child on our station. 312 children. And she never forgets a single name. He stepped forward. You are afraid of her because she is not what you expected. You wanted a Valerin from the old stories. Distant, cold, alone. Instead, you got a dragon who knows how to love. And that terrifies you. His voice grew hard. But that is not her flaw. That is her strength. The chamber erupted in arguments. Representatives shouted at each other. The speaker called for order, his voice booming through the room. And then the doors opened. Esiel walked in. She had not been summoned. She had not been invited. But she walked through those massive doors like she owned them, her wings catching the light, her scales blazing gold. Every argument stopped. Every voice fell silent. She was not the largest creature in the room. But in that moment, she seemed like the only one that mattered. She stopped before the tribunal and bowed her head. The chamber gasped. No Valerin had offered such a gesture to lesser species in 10,000 years. It was a sign of respect, of equality, of humility. I am Isiel, she said. Her voice was clear and strong, filling every corner of the chamber. Daughter of Irith the Silver, last of House Irith, raised by Park Taiho of Earth. She lifted her head and looked at the tribunal. You have been arguing about my fate for 18 years. You have sent ambassadors and scientists and assassins. You have demanded and threatened and debated. Her eyes moved across the chamber, touching every representative. But you have never asked me what I want. She spread her wings, and the light caught them like stained glass. My mother gave me to a human because she saw in him what this council refuses to see. Humans are small. They live brief lives. They have no claws, no fire, no scales. But they came when no one else would. They gave when they had little. They loved when it cost them everything. Her voice softened. I remember my mother's last moments. I remember her fear. Not for herself, but for me. She did not know if the human would keep his promise. She did not know if I would survive. But she trusted anyway. Because in her final breath, she saw something in Park Taiho that was worth trusting. Isiel turned to look at Taiho. He was standing alone in the middle of the chamber, his old uniform and gray hair making him look small among the alien giants. But his eyes were steady. His back was straight. He did not know how to raise me, Isiel continued. He did not know what I needed to eat or how hot I needed to sleep. He made mistakes. So many mistakes. She smiled, and it transformed her face. But he never stopped trying. He sold his ship to buy me food. He worked until his hands bled to build me a home. He sat with me every night while I cried for my mother, even though he could not understand my words. She turned back to the tribunal. You ask what I am. I am Valerin. I carry the fire of my ancestors. I remember the old songs. I feel the pull of ancient stars. Her wings folded back. But I am also something new, something my mother hoped I could become. She raised her head high. I am the bridge. The words rang through the chamber like a bell. I understand the old ways. I respect them. But I also understand that the old ways are not enough. The Valerin ruled through fear and distance. They built gates but never connected. They shared knowledge but never kindness. Her voice grew stronger. I was raised differently. I was raised to believe that strength means protecting others. That power means responsibility. That the greatest thing anyone can do is love someone who is different from themselves. She looked at the Kovani delegation. You have temples dedicated to my kind. But what do you worship? Fire? Power? Fear? She shook her head. My father taught me that true worship is service. It is helping others. It is being kind when kindness is hard. She looked at the Thrall delegation. You sent assassins to kill me because I am impure. Because I was touched by human weakness. Her eyes flashed. But what you call weakness, I call strength. The ability to love without condition. The courage to show mercy. The wisdom to know that killing is not always winning. She spread her wings one final time. I am Isil of House Irith. I am the last of my bloodline. And I choose to be something new. Not because I reject my heritage, but because I believe my heritage can be more. We can all be more. She bowed her head again. That is my answer. That is who I am. Do with it what you will. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. It was a human delegate, a young woman from one of the outer colonies. The clapping spread. Other humans joined. Then a few Kavani. Then others. Species that had never agreed on anything found themselves applauding the same moment. The tribunal had no choice. They ruled in Isil's favor. Not unanimously. The Thrall delegation walked out in anger. Some others abstained. But the majority could not deny what they had witnessed. This dragon was not a threat. She was a gift. Afterward, Taiho found Isil outside the chamber. She was looking out a window at the stars. You did good, he said. She turned to him. For all her power, for all her ancient fire, she looked like a child seeking approval. I was scared, I know. What if they had not listened? Taiho shrugged. Then we would have found another way. We always do. Isil laughed. It was a warm sound, full of smoke and light. Thank you, she said, for believing in me. Taiho smiled. Always. They stood together, human and dragon, watching the galaxy spin around them. The future was uncertain. There would be more challenges, more enemies, more difficult choices, but they would face them together as a family. A dying dragon trusted a human with its child. The galaxy watched in awe. Years after the tribunal changed the galaxy, his EUL became the first Valoran ambassador to the Galactic Council. It was a position that had never existed before, because the Valoran had never wanted to speak with lesser species. But Isil was different. She wanted to talk. She wanted to listen. She wanted to build bridges where her ancestors had only built walls. She started with small things. Trade agreements that had been stuck for centuries. Border disputes that had caused decades of Cold War. Resource-sharing programs that everyone wanted, but no one trusted each other to manage. Isil listened to all sides. She remembered every detail. And she found solutions that others had missed, not because she was smarter, but because she cared about everyone involved. The Kovani learned to respect her. She visited their temples not as a god demanding worship, but as a friend seeking understanding. She learned their songs and sang them back, adding harmonies that made the ancient priests weep with joy. The Thrall eventually accepted her too. It took time. The True Mind faction was destroyed after their assassination attempt, but distrust remained. Isil was patient. She visited their worlds. She studied their science. She showed them that connection did not mean corruption. Slowly, the collective opened their minds to her. She opened the ancient jump gates that her ancestors had sealed thousands of years ago. These gates connected distant corners of the galaxy, routes that had been lost when the Valoran withdrew from the universe. Now ships could travel in hours what used to take months. Trade flourished. Ideas spread. Species that had never met each other became neighbors. As UL taught the old songs to anyone who wanted to learn. She shared the star maps written in light. She told the stories of her ancestors, the good and the bad, so that the galaxy could learn from both. But through it all, she always came home. The station orbiting Earth's moon had grown into a small city. Thousands of people lived there now, humans and aliens and everything in between. It was a place of learning and laughter, of arguments and agreements, of life in all its messy beauty. And in the center of it all was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes, who still made the best coffee in the sector. Park. Taiho was 70 years old when Isao brokered the Great Peace, a treaty that ended 300 years of conflict between the Outer Rim systems. He was 75 when she discovered a new species at the edge of known space and made first contact without a single weapon raised. He was 80 when she convinced the Council to create the Protection Fleet, ships dedicated to helping species in danger instead of fighting wars. He watched it all from his chair on the observation deck, a cup of coffee in his hands, pride burning in his heart. But human lives are short. Taiho knew he was dying. He had known for a year. The doctors had given him treatments, but there was only so much they could do. His body was old. His heart was tired. The flame that had kept him going for 93 years was finally fading. He did not tell Izzy ul. She found out anyway. "Why did you not tell me?" she demanded, her voice cracking. She was still young by Valoran standards. She would live for thousands of years more. But right now, standing in Taiho's small room, she looked like a frightened child. "Because I did not want you to worry," Taiho said. He was sitting in his bed, thinner than he used to be, but his eyes were still sharp, still warm. "You have a galaxy to take care of. You do not need to spend your time watching an old man cough. You are my father, and you are my daughter. That means I worry about you, not the other way around." Isiel sat beside his bed. She was too big for the room. Her wings brushed against the walls. Her tail curled around the furniture. But she made herself as small as she could, pressing close to him. "I am not ready," she whispered. Taiho reached out and touched her face. His hand was wrinkled and spotted with age, but his touch was gentle. "You have been ready for a long time. You just do not know it yet. I do not want to be alone." "You are never alone. You have Sumi and her family. You have Hana and her children. You have an entire station full of people who love you." He smiled. "And you have the galaxy. All those species you have helped. All those lives you have changed. They are your family too." Isiel closed her eyes. Tears rolled down her scales. Dragon tears, hot enough to steam in the air. "I never thanked you properly," she said. "For everything. You thanked me every day. Every time you made breakfast. Every time you argued with me about bedtime. Every time you called me Dad." Taiho's voice was soft. "Being your father was the greatest honor of my life. I was a nobody before I found you. A cargo hauler with no family and no purpose. You gave me everything. You gave me everything first. Then we are even?" They sat together as the hours passed. Taiho told stories about his childhood on Earth, about his mother who had died when he was young, about the first time he saw a starship, about the night he heard the distress signal that changed his life. Isiel listened to every word. When the morning came, Taiho was very weak. His breathing was shallow. His eyes were closed more than they were open. But he was smiling. "Isiel," he said softly, "I am here. Do you remember what your mother said? When she gave you to me? She said to protect me, to love me, to teach me. No, she said something else too." Taiho opened his eyes one last time. "She said to show you that strength can be soft, that it can be warm." He squeezed her hand. "You showed the whole galaxy. You showed everyone. I am so proud of you, Dad. I love you, Isiel, my daughter, my little morning dew." He closed his eyes. And Park Taiho, cargo captain from Earth, the man who answered a call when no one else would, slept for the last time. The galaxy mourned. The Kovani sent songs of passage, ancient melodies that echoed through the void. The thrill offered rites of remembrance, their collective mind speaking as one to honor a single human life. 100 species lit beacons in the darkness, small fires burning in tribute to a man who had carried the greatest flame of all. Humanity declared a day of silence. Ships stopped. Stations went dark. Billions of people paused their lives to remember the man who had taught a dragon to love. But Isail did not mourn publicly. She returned to the Vela sector, to the place where it all began. Her mother's ship was still there, drifting in the void, preserved as a memorial. Isail landed on the ancient hull and folded her wings. She thought about her mother, dying and afraid, trusting a stranger with everything she had. She thought about Taiho, young and uncertain, taking a crying hatchling into his arms. She thought about the years that followed, the struggles and the victories, the arguments and the laughter, the quiet nights watching stars together, and she wept not for loss, not for grief, but for gratitude, because a dying dragon had trusted a human with her child, and the human had proven worthy, more than worthy. He had shown her what it meant to be strong, what it meant to be kind, what it meant to love without condition and give without limit. The galaxy had watched in awe at the dragon who became a bridge, but Isabel knew the truth. The bridge was never her. It was him. It was always him. A small human with a big heart, who came when no one else would, and changed everything. She stayed on the wreckage until the stars turned. Then she spread her wings and flew home. There was work to do. A galaxy to guide. A family to protect. Her father had taught her how. And she would make him proud. Forever.